Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Monday, July 20th, 2026. What a blessing to be present with all of you for all of these years, finding each other from across the world just to say good morning, to find you, to say hello by name, to know that we'll be there when we tune in. Welcome, friends, on Instagram. It's been a while since we've seen you. Tara and Bensi, nice to see you. Let's see who's here on Facebook so we can say a few more hellos before we sing a blessing, learn some Torah, and move forward into a good day. I want to say hi to Maki Zeus. Good morning. I don't know what your name is, but I'm really glad you're here. Welcome to see you. Scott and Bensi, welcome. Caroline, thank you. It's good to be home. Linda and Ashley, Barry, good to see you too. Dave and Debbie, Joyce and Dale, Arlene and Jerry, Kathleen, good morning, friends. Good to see everybody. We're going to take a breath in a second, sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Linda, Dale, Cheryl, Arlene, nice to see everyone. Okay, let's take a breath, sing a bracha. After I say hello to Barbara and George, Natalie, Patty, and Amy, good morning. Hi, Miriam. Hi, Ron. Sienna, good to see you too. Hi, Cecile. Sarah, nice to see you. Your cats are named Maki and Zeus. That is excellent. Sarah, really glad you're here. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה, הפוך בה והפוך בה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. So good morning, everyone. It's really good to see you. To everyone on Facebook, thank you for journeying with me to Israel and now back. It was an incredible privilege. Learned a lot. Spent some really beautiful restorative time reconnecting with beloved friends, doing good work, seeing the staff of UJA Federation of New York doing their excellent work in Jerusalem and throughout Israel, sharing with our incoming CEO, Michael Kay, in his first meeting with our Israel staff, seeing the excitement in everyone's eyes about continuing this work and adding dimensions to it. Penny, thank you for keeping count of all of these mornings. It's broadcast 1,594. I also want to dedicate today's Torah learning to my beloved daughter, who's turning 19 today. So if you happen to know Raya, you can reach out and say happy birthday, and at the very least, it's my joy to share it with you. Let's talk a little Torah. And Sarah, yes, the posts sometimes make their way from here to YouTube, but the constant is UJA Federation of New York on Facebook, and then once in a while on Instagram, and then once in a while from there onto YouTube. We try to make sure to save the good ones, but it's not a science, it's an art. We are in the days leading up to Tisha B'Av, the 9th of the day of the month of Av, and it's a complicated day. If you're unfamiliar, we're in the month of Av, began last week, And the ninth day of Av begins Wednesday night. We always begin a day the night before. And the ninth of Av is a very sad day on the Jewish calendar. We like to say that it is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar, and that's true. But we unfortunately have a few sad days. Yom HaShoah, the day where we mark the memory of the Holocaust. Yom HaZikaron, where we recognize all of those who have fallen in service in the founding and in protection of the State of Israel and as victims of terror. And October 7th has now joined that very sad, small collection of sad days. But Tisha B'Av, for a certain amount of time, was the day that we placed all of our sadness. And that means that not only did it mark the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in 586 BCE, also the second temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE, we appended to it, as if they all happened on this one day, the Edict of Expulsion from Spain, the signing of the Edict of Expulsion of Jews from England. We added to it the fall of Beitar, which was the last Jewish self-determining stronghold in the Bar Kokhba revolt. And we added sad things to this, including the Chmelnytsky massacre much later in time. And the debate raged for some time, should Yom HaShoah be placed on Tisha B'Av? And if you look closely, it doesn't. Why? Not because sadness doesn't touch sadness, but because the notion of self-determination, the rebuilding, the refounding of our people through the birth of the State of Israel did not fit the theological language of Tisha B'Av, which is mipnei chata'enu galinu me'artzenu, because of our sins, these bad things happened. Tisha B'Av is very much defined by the rabbis as being caused by sinat chinam. And that language, which we've discussed before, is causeless hatred. But how interesting it is for us to think about what that means. Not the definition of causeless hatred, but for the rabbis to look at the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE and say, it's because we were hateful to each other. They did not say it's because of geopolitics and Rome's determination to put down even the threat of a rebellion. It's not geopolitics, it's Jewish action. And in a certain sense, that is so much self-regard. It is so chutzpahdik to say, look what we caused. And that tells us something very important as we move forward through time. Because yes, history is created by so many factors. It's not always about the Jews or what the Jews did. But when we take on responsibility, we actually are saying to ourselves, what can we learn from this terrible sadness that we commemorate? What must we get better? And the rabbis obviously recognizing the problem of this in their day, and we should recognize it in ours as well. The rabbis say we need to learn to be better to each other. We need to be more careful with hate. And what an important lesson for us, friends. What an important lesson for us to hold on to. That the rabbis choose to focus on hatred. Hatred. So I want to tell you a very strange series of things. I'll start with the last one, then work my way back, because having just returned from Israel, there's so much on my mind. And Tisha B'Av, because of what it represents, the destruction of Jerusalem, given that I was just able to have a slice of heaven in Jerusalem, as a free Jew, learning Torah and being with people, having good food, seeing good examples. Here are two examples of it. I was staying at a hotel. It wasn't a big hotel, and there were some times, because it wasn't a big hotel, that when I went down to breakfast, I was the only one there. Well, that stood in contrast with Friday morning, when there was a very big and raucous family, half Israeli, half American. And I was struck by how loud it suddenly got. And it was joyful, it was beautiful, but it was a lot. And so when I left breakfast, I felt a little bit of relief. Well, fast forward, because that was the last Shabbat I was going to be able to be in Israel this time around. At the end of Shabbat, I davened, Shabbat ends, but there's a very important ceremony called Havdalah. If you haven't done it, it is beautiful. It involves tasting wine or grape juice, smelling spices or herbs, and then seeing fire and seeing the contrast between where it reaches and where it begins. A lot to say about Havdalah, but I didn't have the materials I needed. As I was walking out of the hotel, figuring out what I would do to make up for Havdalah, this family, this raucous family, was right outside the door of the hotel, getting ready to do Havdalah. And the Israeli part of the family made kippahs. Instead of having kippot, because they didn't wear kippot, they took napkins and kind of like rolled up the corners so that it would stay on their heads. They were the ones making Havdalah, and their American cousins, I'm guessing, wearing kippot, were there. And I said, would you mind if I joined in with Havdalah? And this young man, who I've never met, put his arm around me and said, of course. He said, but you should know, my cousins are Sephardi. This might take a while. And so he was holding me and inviting me and we were family instantly. And they made Havdalah, and then for the besamim, the spices, they had a potted plant, and so they rubbed just one of the leaves. I think it might have been thyme. And I smelled this, and I looked around, and they were all including me in the blessings. And I was home with them. And then as soon as that's done, I walk out of the hotel to the bus stop where I'm going to catch the bus, take me to the train, catch my flight. And this woman's sitting there, and you should know about the trains in Jerusalem. The buses in Jerusalem. They only are going to arrive at your station when they're able to leave the central bus station, the Tachana Merkazit, once Shabbat is over. And so literally Shabbat has just ended, and I'm sitting at the bus station right across from my hotel, and there's a woman sitting there. She was just taking a rest from a walk. She said, Shavua Tov, which is what we say to each other at the end of Shabbat. She said, "Ta mechake l'autobus? Are you waiting for the bus?" I said, "Ken, la tisa, for my flight." She said, "La'n ata nosea?" I said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm flying back to New York." She said, "Nesiat tova, brachot." A good flight, blessings. You tell me the place anywhere else in the world where that would have happened. Where this raucous family full of blessing would have adopted a cousin instantly into their circle of blessing. And then where, because Shabbat hasn't yet come out, she knew that the bus wasn't coming for a little while, she sat with me and she engaged in conversation and blessed me on my journey. Where else would that have happened? And then the most recent. So I sit down for my flight, sit in my chair, and the man next to me is, well, at least it seems like he is ultra-Orthodox. And I have a eye mask so I can go to sleep, and I have a neck pillow because it's going to be a long flight. And then all of a sudden, I say Tfilat HaDerech, which is a prayer for travel, and I'm ready to go to sleep. And next to me, I hear the words of Shema, so loud, right in my ear. Not only that, he's saying Shema, and then he is going back and saying the words 3 times each. I guess it was a mystical practice that he inherited, or maybe he wasn't sure he got each word, so so he went back and started doing the Shema. But then he did all 3 paragraphs really loud, really slow, and each word 3 times. And I was about to say to him, keep davening, but maybe quiet a little bit. And I said to myself, these are the 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av. And the rabbis made us focus on sinat chinam, on unnecessary hatred. Now, did I feel hatred? Certainly not. Was I annoyed? A little bit. Similar to this raucous family, when I was annoyed. But that was the same family that put their arm around me. And while I didn't put my arm around my seatmate on the flight, I did think to myself, first of all, when's the next time I'll be able to hear this kind of prayer practice? I hadn't heard it before. And what would it mean for me to interrupt his prayer? It's a little bit annoying. But we're both free Jews flying on a flight from our homeland. Maybe him to visit someone, maybe me to head home. But these are moments where it is a choice to make a blessing of the circumstance. And if we would make more of those choices, less judgmental, certainly not hateful. Think about what the world could be. It's not that hate truly created the destruction of the temple. I don't know that that is meant to be taken literally, although the rabbis maybe did mean this in a more literal way. But how important it is, friends, how important it is for us to consider what a positive spin on this could mean. These experiences that only would have happened in Israel and only on a flight from Israel are opportunities for blessing instead of causing greater divides between human beings. I hope that we'll take these days leading up to Tisha B'Av and recognize the power that we have through our choice of words and our choices of responses to be agents of more peace and more love. There are certain things that can only be true in Israel. Leaving while coming home felt incredibly beautiful, and it's good to be back. Leaving is so hard because as complicated as Israel can be, it is also very simple. We're family. With everything that comes along with that. Not simple. And often it's too much noise. But how beautiful it is, friends, to see these days leading up to Tisha B'Av as opportunities for extending blessing. May we be so blessed that we find moments like these wherever we are, to suspend judgmentalism, to try to find a way to remain connected, even when it's a little bit loud, especially right in our ears. Maybe we're being told in these moments, there's something to learn here. There's always something to learn here. What a gift to be able to find that together, to focus on it in complicated times. Let's take a breath. Together we'll send our hearts to the east. Let's sing. Kol balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, Eretz Zion Virushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.